Hey everybody, welcome back. So we gotta name this girl here. Uh, drop your comments with a name suggestion down below. With that said, I've got a pretty decent idea on how we might be able to capture some dino babies, and that is with the use of spiked walls. I think that's the game plan, and that will also hopefully remove some of these lower levels and allow us to maybe repopulate with some higher levels. We'll see how that goes. All right, it's time to figure out who our next victim is going to be, or I guess our first victim. Thinking these guys right here. Now, that's when I realized also that their tails have a large hit radius, as you're going to see here in a few seconds. It's not going to stop me from trying, though. Whoa! So it seemed like a good idea to try to go back and sneak in there for a little bit more. It was not a good idea. It appears that it is working. We've already got one of them down. But also still making the same mistakes of messing with the tails. It was at this point that I realized I still had my parasaur on attack my target and following me, and all the worst things I could possibly have it on when animals are attacking. So find out that it is actually dead, and later on we'll figure out where that is. Although thanks to these spike walls, tide will no longer be an issue, the near future at least. See if I can sneak up there and maybe put some more spikes on this guy. Now I'm out looking for what is left of my parasaur. It's got to be around here somewhere. I eventually do find it, I'm fairly certain. Let's try it again. This can't fail. This actually went on for quite a while, just taking dinosaurs out. So I'm going to go ahead and bring you back to after all this aftermath is over with. But as you can see, there are babies running around, so we can probably capture some of them, as we do right here. And this is how it goes. With the loss of my parasaur, I realized I needed to get some sort of berry gatherer to take care of narco berries and anything else that I might need harvest-wise. So I was looking at some trikes, and then I decided I needed to get an Anki, because that would be able to do berries and metal in a more efficient fashion. So I proceeded to run around the island a bunch. Unfortunately, there were no options, any high-level options. So we pass on that. Here we see a large group of Triceratops messing with the spike walls. Thankfully they're drawing each other into it. And then I decided a good idea was to shoot one. Well, they can't swim that well. And if you lure them into the water and you stay below the surface, they can't get you. You can just shoot up at them. This is where we got really lucky, and we found a 135 pterodon. This would be really handy. But these reusable bolas are complete trash, and I need to get rid of that mod and find another option for that, although we're kind of moving beyond the point of needing bolas or any reusable items except perhaps a reusable grapple hook. So we'll see how this plays out later. In the meantime, though, we got a 135 pterodon. New mode of transportation, check. After realizing that there's no high-level Ankies, I come back to the 115 Triceratops. And its baby. And why not? I think the best thing to do at this point would just be to tame this also, so we have a decent berry gatherer set up, because we haven't found any parasaurs or anything else, and we still cannot saddle a Bronto. Learning what I learned earlier, that these guys don't swim that well, I'll use that to my advantage. Now the key here is to make sure that it doesn't fall asleep in the deep water, if it's the one you want. Obviously the other one, I didn't care if it drowned, so we'll just have it pass out. Alright, and now we have our berry gatherer in check. I believe it also does thatch. And unfortunately, not a wood gatherer, which would be even more handy. As a new pterodon was about to tame up, I went ahead and made a pterodon saddle for it. This would open up the map, as we could get around a lot easier. With our new pterodon saddled up, I decided to fly around our island to see if we could find any high-level tames that might benefit us in our quest to beat this map. Also, as flying around the island, I discovered our pterodon had really, really bad stamina. So, taking out a Bronto would provide it with a few levels. Unfortunately, not much. Shortly thereafter, we also got super lucky and found a 135 parasaur. This would be nice, except for the fact that as soon as I found it, it immediately disappeared for no apparent reason. I don't even know where it got off to. After wandering around and still not finding our parasaur anywhere remotely close, thankfully not finding it in our spiked fence wall that we set up at the top, I was able to locate it down near the beach, getting ready to put its toes in the sand and relax. But we just can't have that. We need you as part of our group. After feeding the parasaur, I realized our trike was about to tame up, so I ran over quickly to ensure that we got its baby. Now we have a male-female trike pair. I was also looking at our pterodon, and I realized its stats were mediocre at best. There's no real standouts on any of the stats. While waiting for our parasaur to tame up, I flew around the island a little bit more just to see if I could find any more options of high-level tames that might have wandered on or spawned in. This was unfortunately fruitless. Too many low levels everywhere. I flew over to pick up our new parasaur. This would come in handy probably for some berry gathering at some point. Either way, could at least be used like a pack mule to carry heavy objects, because currently I don't have any animals that can carry any real weight. And then I spent more time wandering around our island trying to find anything of any real use. Again, still with no luck whatsoever. After this, I decided to go ahead and clean up the base, kind of get rid of some of the spike walls to allow the dinos to repopulate the area. We'll probably put them out later should we need to, but unfortunately, we got to let things repopulate in order to find something higher level. You know, it was a little dark, but I decided why not? Let's go ahead and take ourselves a little family photo. Pretty sure I can adjust the sun using the camera mode. We got really lucky with the same drop that came down and gave us a really nice crossbow. Now we get an Ascended Pterodon saddle. This would be really handy in keeping our little guy safe. Now with our Pterodon with the brand new shiny saddle, we also managed to acquire our first bit of oil. This will come in handy when we try to make gas for a generator for our base. This is also about the point where I started thinking we should probably get started on that actual base. That's going to require a lot of farming. Well, the trike could gather berries, and a fair amount of thatch really wasn't as good as I had been hoping, but we still use it for thatch anyways. We're gonna need that. Definitely gonna need that. Thankfully, our parasaur was there, and he didn't mind hanging out and carrying a lot of rocks for us. In fact, he would carry anything like a pack mule. We need a name for him on account of our last one died. Hopefully this one will stick around a little bit longer. Oh, matter of my poor decision making, though. We'll figure that out later. Unfortunately, while farming, we had an interloper come over and start walking all over our base, being a public nuisance. But I really wanted to get this base started, so I decided to press on, completely ignoring him as best I could, and hope he just went away. This is where we get our base started, figuring out the perfect alignment between the edges of these canyon walls. And again, our interloper was still there and still doing the best he could to get in literally every bit of the way he could. While placing the stones that headed back into the canyon, I realized that the ground actually goes up in the middle. An aspect I had forgotten about is it's been a little while since I played on this map. But this would allow us to kind of figure out how high up everything is, and then we could reposition a little bit later on how to make this just right, all fine tuning. But everything's freehand, so it doesn't really matter. we're just going to freehand it according to what fits best for us. You ever had enough of a neighbor and you're like, this dude's just got to go? I had an idea just how to evict him from the area. With the distraction finally taken care of, now we can turn our attention back to building again. However, we have to lower down these foundations to a more reasonable height at at the highest part of the canyon's base. So we also have to figure out how we're going to keep it reasonably close to where the original line was, because that was fairly close to the middle. And we use half walls. How about that? Unfortunately, this meant I had to go back and pick up every single stone foundation I'd placed down and replace them with the new height level. With the heights sorted out and the angles looking okay in between the canyons, I decided to start laying out more foundations. This would end up becoming the middle section of what would become our new base. However, I still had to clean out a lot of rocks, a lot of trees, and a lot of bushes. This will happen over time. With our supplies running low and wanting to keep putting down some more foundations, it was time for more farming. Thankfully, we had an unnamed parasaur there to help mule everything around. Again, put your comments down below on what we should name him. With the main foundations put down for the walls between the canyons, I wanted to put down a nice front rotunda, a nice grand entryway, something that just says royalty. So we're going with something round. So it's going to take a little bit, but when it's done, we should be able to put down gates around the sides. Three, I believe. It was either three or five. I can't remember. But we need each section to be 2 foundations wide. And once that happens, well, there you go. It's going to be a pretty classy looking joint. At least the foundations. With enough hand farming done, I'd had enough. I realized what we needed to do was step up our game. We needed to get a dough deck. And with that, we needed to go on a journey with our pterodon in its shiny new saddle. But along the way, we'd probably also check out some of these drops. There are three mountains that typically have lots of dough decks in them, besides the redwood forest. But we're going to try to avoid that at all costs. We just need one high-level dough deck, and we should be good on one of our utility tames. Finally making it to the first mountain, we flew around. We found one at the very bottom, although it was engaged in battle, and there was nothing we could really do to save it. And it probably did survive, but we didn't really stick around to find out. Unfortunately, we weren't really able to find anything else around the base of it. However, once we get to the top, it's a different story. At the top of the peak, we ended up finding two doe decks, both level 50. Of course, both of them were female naturally, and one was a baby, but we ended up saving it from these raptors trying to assassinate them, let's say, in the middle of nowhere. Never walk into a dark alley, never hike a mountain by yourself. There might be raptors out there. Be careful. Still not satisfied with our options for doe decks, I decided to press on and check out the next few mountains and see what we could find. Unfortunately, mountain number 2 didn't really provide anything helpful, not even any good RGs, because an RG would have made this a heck of a lot easier. But what can you do? You can only take what Ark provides. With the volcano also proving to be completely fruitless, didn't even have a Karcha or a Giga. It was, yeah, basically just a big waste of time. Unfortunately, this means we're going to have to push our luck when we go into the redwoods and hope for the best at this point. Now, the thing about the redwoods, they pose a certain extra amount of caution when it comes to flyers. They have these giant things, we'll call them cats, that are technically called thylas. And we don't want to actually mess with those. So we're just going to take our time, fly through as far as we can from the trees, hopefully out of pouncing distance, and just try to find a decent doe deck. However, this proves to be useless. Absolutely useless. Nothing really in here worthwhile. But we push on and keep looking anyways. Did you see that? There was a thyla back there. I'm going to circle around so you can see it. And there it was. Complacency set in. I felt safe. But no. Silas was there. Decided to eat me for lunch. Have served my ass up between two pieces of bread and eat me like a sandwich. Now I knew it was a rescue mission to hopefully save our unnamed pterodon, which you should also comment below. Let me know what we should name our pterodon, assuming it lives. With our old pterodon, originally caught a while ago had just been sitting there collecting levels, I was able to put a lot of stamina and a lot of movement speed in it in order to orchestrate this rescue mission. This one also needs a name because, you know, I don't know if speed is the option because it's not really that fast, but it's fast enough. Either way, it was going to hopefully get us there and save our other unnamed pterodon.
My name is Jeff.
All right then, so that happened. We're just going to rest over here and make our way to the rest of the rescue mission. Thankfully, our pterodon was still alive. Unfortunately, it was right above the thyla that had killed me. So I tried my best to lure it off the edge into the swamp. Really could care less what would happen to it. But this was also, you know, life-threatening, messing with the thyla like that. But with the thyla out of the way, I was able to land, get my stuff back, and transfer back to our original pterodon. Rescue pterodon had done its job. And hopefully I don't have to call upon him again, but if I do, he'll be ready and waiting. With my clothes destroyed, I decided the next best thing we needed to do was just fly back to our original peak where we left those 2 level 50 dodecks and just take what we can get, because that's all Ark has given us today. Let's take what was given to us originally that would have been less life-threatening and call it a day. So we start the long journey back. Before we get started on trying to tame this dodak, we needed to repair our helmet, or our, I don't know, our bandana or whatever you call it, because this way we can see exactly how much torpor this guy's got, or this girl's got. And then, once knocked out, we're going to go ahead and just hang out here and try to protect it as best we can. And there we have it. Dodeck tamed up. Grab the baby. No big deal. Everything is fine. Time to fly home. Except one small thing. This pterodon stamina still sucks. No matter high level it is, it's just not that great. I soon realized that we're going to end up either landing in the swamp, so we need to land before the swamp. Either one is not a good proposition. All right, we have made it home safe. We have the new dodeck. It's going to get saddled up, and we're going to take it out farming at some point, probably off camera. But overall, a very successful day. I no longer have to farm rocks by hand. The base has got a decent foundation layout to start from, and we have a better way of farming rocks, not by hand. I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, leave the name of the whatever tame you feel is appropriate.